River of Golden Waters. The Legend of Jemima Brown. Part 1. The Unbinding. Once, in a time when the world was being torn apart and stitched back together with threads of blood and iron, there lived a girl named Jemima. To the woman who claimed to own her, she was simply Jamie, a short name for a life she expected to be brief and narrow. It was June 19, 1866. The Texas heat was a heavy cloak, smelling of dust and jasmine. The news arrived not as a whisper, but as a roar that shook the very foundations of the plantation. The war was over. The chains, though invisible for months, had finally snapped. 14-year-old Jamie stood in the quarters, the sound of weeping and cheering swirling around her like a cyclone. But amidst the chaos, her mind went remarkably still. She remembered the rectangular cloth, hidden beneath her thin mattress, wrapped in an oily canvas that smelled of ancient earth and citronella, was her grandmother's legacy. It was a Kinta cloth, but unlike any other. It featured a weave of deep indigo and crimson, with a heavy tassel at each corner and one exactly in the center of each long edge. Etched into the fabric were symbols that looked like stars, yet moved like clockwork when the light hit them. On the day you are free, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. A memory so sharp it felt like a command. Find the river where the sands are black as a crow's wing. Wash the cloth in that mud. Do not fear the dirt, for the dirt knows where the riches hide. Jamie didn't wait for the mistress to call her. She didn't wait for a wagon. She took the oily bundle, a gourd of water, and her courage, and she began to walk. Perspective. Sarah the mistress, I watched her go from the porch. Jamie. She didn't look back. There was a gait in her step I'd never seen, not the shuffle of a servant, but the stride of a queen reclaiming a lost province. I wanted to call out, to tell her the world was too big for a girl of 14, but the words died in my throat. She carried a bundle under her arm like it was the Holy Grail. For the first time, I realized I never owned her. I only borrowed her time, and now the debt was settled. Part 2. The Alchemy of the Mud. Jamie found the spot 3 days later. The riverbank was a desolate stretch where the water slowed and deposited a thick, silken, silt-black sand, heavy with iron. She knelt in the mud. She knelt in the cool, dark earth. She unwrapped the cloth. In the daylight, the symbols seemed to vibrate. She pushed the fabric deep into the black sludge. She covered it completely, letting the mud coat every thread, every tassel. Then she waited. The sun climbed and began its descent. For over an hour, Jamie stared at the river. According to her grandmother's instructions, the cloth was not just fabric. It was a vessel, a magnet, a blueprint. If the soaking was done right, the very elements of the earth would find their home. When she finally pulled the cloth from the muck, it felt heavier, tremendously so. She took it to the clear running water to rinse away the excess dirt. As the mud swirled away, Jamie gasped. The cloth had transformed. Black iron had migrated to the borders, forming rigid, wire-like structures within the weave. Dustings of silver glittered in the star-shaped symbols. Gold flakes had embedded themselves into the center tassels. Most strangely, the tassels themselves began to change color, turning a brilliant electric violet. Coded writing steeny, microscopic instructions appeared on every inch of the cloth. It was a map. It was a manual. It was a machine waiting to be born. Part 3. The Long Pilgrimage. The cloth was not finished. It was hungry. For 2 weeks, Jamie wandered the riverbanks of the south, seeking specific minerals the cloth's changing colors demanded. 2 weeks turned into 2 months. She became a phantom of the riverbeds, a young girl with a magical shroud. As each mineral found its programmed space, the cloth began to take on a life of its own. It hummed against her skin. The trailing ends of the tassels began to break off, falling away like spent husks once the elements they represented were fulfilled. Jamie heard the stories of the West, Colorado, a place of jagged peaks and golden veins. They called it the Shining Mountain. People of all colors were heading to a place called Central City. She joined a wagon train. She was tiny, but she was tireless. She walked over the long, rolling prairie. She watched the horizon. Day after day, the small hills grew into giants. Perspective. Moses, a fellow traveler, she was just a slip of a thing, maybe 15 by the time we hit the plains. She had these eyes that saw through the dirt. She'd spend every night at the watering holes, washing that strange cloth of hers. We thought she was just clean to a fault. But I saw that cloth glow once, under a harvest moon. It wasn't just cloth anymore. It looked like it was made of clockwork and sunset. She'd look at the mountains and nod, as if she and the Rockies had a secret. After 8 months and 1,500 miles, Jamie reached Deer Trail, Colorado. The big sandy creek felt different. The air was thin and sharp, like a whetted blade. The Rockies loomed 150 miles away, white-capped and divine. In the small, muddy village of Denver, Jamie saw the world. She saw men from China with long braids, Germans in lederhosen, and black men in Union blues, all seeking the same thing, a new life. She had $25 in her pocket, earned by nursing sick children and doing the heavy lifting others shunned. She followed the whispered directions to a neighborhood called 5 Points. There, among her own people, she saw the future. But the gold wasn't in Denver. The gold was in the sky in Central City. Part 4. The Bloodstained Tent. Jamie was wise beyond her years. Hey, listen to the miners in 5 Points.
Okay.
They didn't talk about the gold as much as they talked about the misery. They talked about the filth, the rotting clothes, and the salt pork that turned their stomachs. In Central City, a miner told her a man would give a nugget for a clean shirt and a bowl of beans that don't taste like tin. Jamie went to work. She bought pots, pans, tin cups, and 4 large washing tubs. She rented a pair of mules whose ears were longer than her arms. To house her business, she bought a used 10 by 10 canvas tent. It was a grim thing stained with the blood of an old knife fight. With a jagged hole in one panel but to Jamie, it was a palace. The trek to Central City took 3 days. They passed through Broomfield, where the fields of straw waved like an ocean, and men made brooms to sweep away the dust of the old world. When she arrived in the Gulch of Central City, the miners helped her set up. They laughed at the girl with the bloody tent, but they stopped laughing when she lit her fires. She made a deal. She would wash and cook, and in exchange, she wanted a small percentage of the tailings, the leftover sand and dirt from their pans. Her first load of laundry was horrific. The shirts were stiff with sweat and the red-gray clay of the mines. Jamie scrubbed until her knuckles bled. But as the dirt settled at the bottom of her 4 tubs, she saw it, the missing element. The gold dust of Central City was the final key. She took the kinta cloth and submerged it in the final wash water. The last of the tassels vanished. The cloth became rigid, humming a low, vibrating note that made the water dance. Part 5. The Fire and the Iron. That night, the tape of her grandmother's voice played one last time in her dreams. Spirit must die for the body to live. Burn the veil, Jamie. Burn it and see. At dawn, Jamie took a large plank of wood. She laid the heavy mineral-encrusted cloth upon it. She drenched it in old moonshine whiskey, clear, biting, and flammable. She struck a match. The flames were not orange, but a brilliant shifting rainbow of green, blue, and gold. The threads of the kinta cloth, the cotton, and the silk burned away in seconds, but the minerals did not vanish. As the fire subsided, Jamie looked down at the plank. There, glowing softly in the embers, were hundreds of small metal gears, delicate rods, and intricate silver parts. They had been grown inside the weave of the cloth, shaped by the coded instructions and the minerals she had gathered. It took Jamie for months to assemble the puzzle. She sat in her blood-stained tent, by the light of a tallow candle, fitting gear to rod, silver to iron. What emerged was a machine that defied description. It was a centrifuge, a filter, and a refiner all in one. It was the special machine her grandmother had promised, a gift from an ancestry that knew the secrets of the earth, long before the steam engine was ever dreamt of. Part 6. The Millionaire of the Gulch. Jamie's business exploded. She didn't just wash clothes. She processed them. She would add a special dilution of water and a secret salt to her tubs. It didn't just clean the fabric. It extracted every microscopic grain of gold that had been trapped in the fibers. At the end of each day, while the miners slept, Jamie would drain the machine. She would find not just dust, but small nuggets that had been overlooked. Perspective. Silas, a miner, we called her Golden Jamie. You'd give her a shirt that looked like it belonged in a grave, and she'd give it back smelling like mountain air and pressed flat as a Sunday Bible. We knew she was getting rich. She could see it in the way she carried herself, but we didn't care. She kept us fed. She kept us clean. And when the winter fever hit, she was the one with the medicine. She became the bank. If a man needed a stake for a new plane, he didn't go to the white men in Denver. He went to the girl in the tent with the knife hole in the wall. Jamie never married. She had lovers who adored her strength and friends who would have died for her, but she belonged to herself. She became one of the first women of color to become a millionaire in the West. She built a brick house in Central City that outshone the governor's mansion, but she kept the old blood-stained tent in a cedar chest in her bedroom. 5 years passed. The world was changing again. The railroad had bridged the continent, its iron tracks singing of the Pacific. Jamie looked at the mountains one final time. She had conquered the Colorado dust. She had turned mud into gold and cloth into iron. But the wind was blowing from the west, smelling of salt and orange blossoms. California, she whispered. She sold her contracts, turned her banking ledgers over to a trusted apprentice, and bought a first-class ticket on the Union Pacific. She left behind a legacy of schools, churches, and a generation of miners who knew that freedom wasn't just a proclamation. It was something you built with your own 2 hands. A little bit of mud and the wisdom of your grandmothers. As the train steamed out of the station, Jamie sat in the velvet seat, a new rectangular cloth draped across her lap. It was plain indigo, with 4 tassels. She began to weave a new set of symbols into it, her fingers moving like lightning. The story of the Weaver of Golden Waters was just beginning.